Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. For those of you who maybe already followed some of our previous webinars about Website X5, maybe you know me already, or maybe you don't. As the name says in the tag in the bottom of the screen, I am Stefano, and I will be your host for today's webinar. Usually, I'm in charge of hosting the webinars about Website X5. But today, for the first time, I'm actually doing one about WebAnimator. And for that reason, today we're going to be talking about WebAnimator 4 specifically. I'm just going to be waiting one quick second to see if all of you successfully joined in, if you can see and hear me just fine. If you can, just let me have a feedback in the chat. Just let me know if you can hear me. So yeah, I know we're just ready and good to go. Let's see. If you can just write in the chat that you can hear me and that you can see me fine, so we can get started. Just going to be waiting a few seconds for your feedback. Okay, that's perfect. There we go. Okay, I guess you can see and hear me just fine then. Okay, well, again, welcome to today's webinar. As I said before, we're going to be talking about WebAnimator 4. If any of you maybe owned one of our previous versions, like WebAnimator 3, of course, you probably more or less know what we're going to be talking about today. So first of all, when talking about WebAnimator 3, maybe you remember that we had like several editions for it, like WebAnimator Go, Now, and Plus, which of course costed. They had a different cost, but they also offered a different set of features. Well, in this case, with WebAnimator 4, we have not more than just one edition. There's just the one edition, which is WebAnimator 4, which is going to be featuring all of what the software has going on. So you will find all of the features already inside this one edition, which is WebAnimator 4. That's it. Of course, with the new version, a lot has improved. You're going to be finding most of the features that we had before, and you're also going to be finding a lot more. So yeah, I guess you can already see my screen. I've readied it just because we're going to be moving on to the software in a second. Today I'm going to be showing you like the basics of the software. So let's say how to start a new project, how to configure it, then how the software is structured, I mean, where you can find what. And then I'm going to be showing you a quick animation, which I made already. I'm going to be showing you the final result, and then I'm going to be showing you how to achieve the same kind of animation, the same kind of result as you're going to be seeing in the final animation. So yeah, I guess we can just get started. I'm going to disappear from the screen for a second so you can see the entirety of the software window. Okay, there we go. So yeah, first of all, let's start with creating a new project, of course. So if you click on the new button, this window will pop up. And let's say I would like to focus on a few elements of this, which are specifically the blank scene field, which I'm going to be explaining to you what this means. So essentially by blank scene, we mean this. So every time you build a project, you can divide the project into scenes. So let's say for the first scene, you have a few elements which are animated in a certain way. Then if you want to create, let's say something, you want to talk about something completely different, you can just create a new scene and then you can add new elements to that scene, create entirely new animations. As to keep the work, your project organized and separated. So when you're going to be playing the animation, each scene will be played one after the other. So when you start a new project, the default is 1, and you can just keep this option at 1 because it doesn't really matter how many blank scenes you start with. You can always add more as you're working on your project. So the other part of this window that I want to focus on is the size, which is actually the container size, or like the maximum size that your animation can cover. So for example, here we got a few presets. We got more right here. I can pick whatever. The important thing to understand here is that the size of the container matters mostly if you are building an animation, which, let's say, you're not really worried that the animation is going to be viewed on different devices. Maybe you're just building the animation for a single desktop application or website, so you don't really care about the responsive part. Then you can just configure the container size right here, and you're ready to go. I mean, the project will be started with a container this size. Of course, it's also important to point out that you can always change the size of the container later on. So yeah, if you already have an idea of, let's say, how big the container needs to be, you can configure that here. If you change your mind later, that's no problem at all. It's an entirely different story if you plan on using your animation, let's say, on a website that people are going to be viewing on different devices, maybe a computer, desktop, maybe a tablet, maybe a mobile phone. In that case, of course, responsive is important. And all you need to do is check the responsive layout checkbox right here. You can see that this also enables the breakpoint window, which for those of you who maybe are not used to working with breakpoints, by breakpoints, we mean essentially, as you can see these numbers here, this means that when the device that the user is using to check out your website or check out your animation, its size or its pixel count is between 1024 and 778, they're going to be seeing the animation exactly as you configured it between these two resolutions. So instead of just building one animation, you will still, of course, be building just one animation, but you will need to tweak its configuration per every breakpoint that you're using. So I can build one for this, one for this, one for this, and then you're sure that in the end, whatever device the user is going to be adopting to check your animation out, you're sure that the animation will just look as good on every screen. So if you just click OK, a new project is started, and you will get to this page, which is like this is the core of the software. This is where you'll be spending your time building your project. I would like to talk about, I would like to talk a little bit about what we're seeing here, but to do this, I'm actually not going to be using this new project. I'm going to be using another project which I prepared earlier on, which is this one. Just so you know, should you require any further information than what I'm providing here about maybe this project in particular, keep in mind that on our official YouTube channel, of course, which is the Inco Media channel, you can find multiple tutorials, and we'll be uploading even more. Let's say as we go on with the software development, we're going to be uploading more and more video tutorials. You can find one tutorial which is specifically on this project. So we're going to be showing off how a few animations work, how to configure a few things. And all of this is going to be done on this project specifically. So yeah. About the software, let's start about talking what we're seeing here. So the central part of the software is called the Workspace. And this is, of course, where you're going to be putting all the elements that you want to be inside your animation, inside your scene. You can see that I have this background here. I have a few cars. I have the hot air balloon. Yeah, here you just technically put all the stuff that you're going to be using in the animation. Then on top, you have the responsive toolbar, which is this one, which you can use to add breakpoints. You can use this one to modify the container size. You see that if I click here, I can then add breakpoints. I can change the breakpoint I'm working on. Yeah, every operation with breakpoints is going to be performed here. Of course, this project was not made for responsive right now. This is why you can see this white space that just came up. I'm just going to be restarting this. I'm going to be showing you a few things about responsive later on with the project, which was already made and configured to be responsive. So yeah, let's get back to the software now. So this part is the responsive toolbar. Then on the bottom of the screen, there's what I think is probably the most important part of the software, which is the timeline section. In the timeline section is where you configure your animation for every element in your scene or inside your project. You can decide what kind of animation they're going to be displaying, for how long the animation is going to be displayed. Then, of course, you got also interpolation and easing, which essentially means like, what if the animation needs to start slow and then end up fast, or vice versa. That's what we mean by easing, like giving different timings to an animation. And yeah, this is the section where you're going to be configuring the animation you want for every object. Then let's move on to the right side. On the right side, you have a few like generic settings for the entire project. But if I click on any element, like let's say on this car, you can see that all the configuration here changes to that of the car. So you can change the object name, you can change the image that is showing. Then you can click here on the position inside section, and you can change the position where the object is appearing. You can change its rotation, you can change its scale, you can skew it, like this, what is called its property pane. According to the kind of object you select, you're going to be getting different configurations for that object. So if I'm clicking, let's say, on a text object, I'm going to be able to change the font size, the font style, the color. If I click on an image, I can change the size, I can change the image itself. If I click on a video or an audio object, then I can change the audio, I can change the video. Yeah, I guess that's about it. So on the left side instead, you have the scene view, which, as I mentioned before, is where you can divide your project into scenes. You can see that I have two scenes which are almost identical. On the first one, I have the completed animation. On the second one, the animation is not done yet. This is one that I'm going to be using to show you how to create a basic animation. And then you have the document section, which again are a few configurations which are specific to the project itself, like the name, the author. You can enable the auto fit. You can enable the viewport width, which is essential for a responsive project. So yeah, let's say a few configurations for the entirety of the project. Then, of course, you have the top bar where you have all of the various settings and options for the project. Again, you can even hide parts of the software that you don't need. You can start the animation, you can insert triggers, you can insert objects. And then right beneath it, you have, again, the classic toolbar where you can create new project, open new project. And then you have a few buttons that allow you to preview your animation inside the browser. Of course, that is very important because after you've just finished making an animation, you want to check out how it looks on an actual browser. So you can do that here. And then you can also export the animation as code, assuming you want to let's say, include the animation on a different website, on any website, or you can use the export to video if you want to make it even simpler and just get a video out of the software that you can use anywhere. You can even reproduce it without having to rely on a browser. And then, of course, you have the export for Incomedia Website X5, which, assuming you already own a copy of Website X5, with this export functionality, you're going to be getting a single file that you can use inside your projects in Website X5. We have a dedicated free object called animation that you can use to implement WebAnimator for animations inside your project. So this makes it all very, very, very easy to do. Then in the center, of course, you have your shapes, your text object, HTML objects, images, audio, video, every element that you might want to add to your project. It is very important here to let's say let's see. So I'm talking about HTML widget. Why? Because compared to when Flash was still a thing, most animations were made with Flash. Now that Flash is no longer a thing and you can almost no longer find it online, of course, animations have to be created in a different way. So the software essentially builds these animations with classic, let me say, let's call it web code, which are like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, for those of you who know what I'm talking about. And why am I talking about this? Because the important thing to understand here is that since the software generates its animations using web codes, you can also interact with the animation or maybe add some particular element or particularly complex interactions by using code yourself. So if you can use code, you're good with coding, just keep in mind that you can extend the functionality of your animation with any code you like. The software is already configured so that you can add any code you want, and as long as, of course, as long as the code is compatible to what the software has generated, you're going to be able to implement it with no particular issue here. So yeah, I would like to end this part by talking about the bottom part here, which is divided in 4 sections. The first section is elements, which essentially mean that you get a list of any object, image, video, any, let's say, any element you used in your scene. You can just select them by clicking here, and this can be especially useful maybe if you have a scene where you have many objects. You almost cannot even click on those. Maybe if you click on one, you select another, like it's hard to click on a single item. So you can just go here and it's very easy to highlight the object you need. Then in the resource pane, this is like very similar, but this is like a container that shows you a collection of all the images or files which are external to the software that you used in your project. So if you need to use them again, or maybe you just want to know how many objects you use inside your project, you can find them here. Then, of course, you have the function section, which is exactly what I was talking about before. If you want to add further, more complex interactions to the project, you can create new functions here. This is the place to do it. And then under breakpoints, if your project is already configured to be responsive, you're going to be finding all of the breakpoints that you configured. And by clicking on this, the project will automatically switch sizes, thus letting you preview what the project would look like on a smaller device, on a medium device, or on a bigger device. Okay. That's about it for the user interface. Now let's talk a little bit of animation. Again, I'm just going to be providing like a quick preview of how to make a basic animation. If you would like to watch more, let's say, tutorials like this one, you can just go to our Incomedia page on YouTube. We're going to be uploading tutorials there. You can already find a few of those. So if you have any questions, you can just either contact us via mail or check our videos directly. So yeah, let's preview this animation now. So this animation is already completed. You can see that if I click play, the orange car is going to be moving along the road, while the balloon is going to be moving up in the sky. So yeah, this is a very basic animation. And yeah, now I'm going to show you how to achieve the same result. So what's important here is that there's essentially two main ways to create an animation. One is manual and one is automatic. So for the car, we're going to be using the manual way. So you can see that I highlighted the car, and then I decided to start, I put this little tag here, this little playhead at the beginning of the timeline. So we're just at second number 0. So assuming I want my car to move from here to here, I have to tell the software that at the start of the animation, the car needs to be here. So we just move to the position panel and we click on this little icon here that is going to be placing the same icon right over here. So when you have this icon here, it means that the software stored the position or let's say the property of that element at that precise time at the timeline. So at second 0, the software knows that the car is supposed to be placed here. Now, let's say I want to move, I want the car to move here, and it will take about 7 seconds. So I move to second number 7 right here. Then I just click here again. You can see that a new icon appears here, and this bar is now highlighted. So then I just take the car and I move it to the new position, and you can see that the number here changed. So if I click play now, the car is going to be moving from the old position to the new one I configured right this way. So this is one way of making a basic animation. You select a certain location, you select a new one, you drag the object there, and then the timeline will do the rest. So let's say I want the balloon to move at the same time that the car is moving. This time we're going to be using the automatic mode, which is done by enabling this button right here. So if I do this, I just have to tell the software what the initial position of my balloon is. So I click here and the icon appears right here. So now what you're going to be noticing is that I will move the playhead to second number 2. Then I just take the balloon and I move it elsewhere, let's say right here. And there we go. The animation was generated automatically. I didn't even have to go and click the icon again. The software just knows that at second number 2, the balloon is supposed to be here, while at second number 0, the balloon was supposed to be here. So if I click play now, let's rewind it. If I click play now, you can see that the car is moving and the balloon goes up till here because the animation is not configured to be, to take as long as the animation of the car does. So let's say I want the balloon to move for the same duration that the car is. So let's go back to second number 7. I still have my automatic keyframe mode active. I just click on the balloon and I want it to move here. You can see that the new animation segment appeared right here. And if I click play now, at second number 2, the balloon is going to be right here. Then up till second number 7, the balloon is going to be moving to its new position. So this way we have almost replicated the original animation, you see? Okay, they're about the same. So we can make things even a little more interesting. So let's say I don't want my car to be moving at the exact same speed the entire time. How can I do this? Well, the easing functionality is what you're looking for. You can see that the easing now is configured to linear. So I just click on my animation segment for the car. You can see that it's highlighted now. Then I just click on easing. And then you get all these options right here, which might not make a lot of sense if you're just reading the name. But if you look at the graph on the side, you can kind of see how they're gonna be working out. So like, let's say I'm going to be taking in-out quart. You can see that this animation sort of starts slow, then speeds up in the middle. And then when it ends, it slows down again. So if I select this easing animation here and I just click play, you can see that my car starts very slow, then speeds up right in the middle of the animation, and then slows down again in the end. So this is what easing is for. Let's say it can help you make your animation maybe a little bit more natural, because things are not always going to be moving at the same speed. So this makes sense, I guess. So yeah, this is how you make a very basic animation where a certain objects move from one place to another, or maybe now we didn't really check out the rotation, but you can do the same with rotation. You can take this basic concept and then apply it to other kind of animation as well. So yeah, of course, as I said, this animation is not responsive. This is not going to be resizing itself. For some kinds of animation, that might be hard to do. I'm going to be showing you a responsive animation right away, so that you can like better understand how responsive works. I'm just going to be saving this project now. Then we move on to the samples category. Okay, so just a few words about the samples category. So all of these projects, of course, were already made by us to display different functionalities inside the software. If you are new to WebAnimator, I would highly recommend that you check out these samples, because some of these contain like some animations that maybe if you watch them, if you analyze how they're made, they can help you make your own. So let's say I want to learn how responsive works. I have the responsive banner. If I want to learn how to make interactive buttons, I have the control animations one, which is essentially about having interaction with certain elements that are going to be applying changes to the animation itself. So yeah, stuff like that. Let's see the responsive banner just for a second. As you can see, we have this banner right here. Let's say we're going to be publishing this animation on a website. Of course, this is not going to be okay on a mobile phone because it's just way too big. You can see that if I click on different breakpoints here, this one, maybe this one, you can see that the entire banner is changing shape. You can see that if I click here, it's almost vertical. So this is what responsive is for. Of course, you need to apply responsive rules to the animations which can actually make use of responsive rules. If we're going to be applying the responsive to the project we saw before, it's probably not going to be so great. But for a banner like this, I believe it works like pretty well. So yeah. Okay. I would say that this is about it. So again, I'm sorry today we do not have much time. So I only have time to show you like the basics of the software. Again, if you want to learn more about it, you can always check our official tutorials on our Incomedia page on YouTube. Also, in case you already purchased the software and you want like some clarification, maybe you're encountering something you're not really sure about how it works or if it's an error, you can just contact us via email, and both me and my colleagues would be, of course, more than happy to help you sort any issue out. And still, just one more thing, in case you do not own the software yet, but you were considering purchasing it, we're currently having a discount since the software just launched. So let's say a launch discount, which is a 20% on the total price of the software. All you have to do to get this is use the coupon code, which I'm going to be writing in the chat right now. You should be seeing it in the chat in a few seconds. So you just get the code, you go on our official website, and when you're purchasing the software, you just put the coupon code in and you're going to be getting the discount on the software. So yeah, I guess that's about it. Thank you for joining me today on this webinar. I sure hope, albeit short, it was helpful to you. If you have, again, any question, just let us know. You can send us an email anytime, or you can contact us on our official help center in case you already had the chance of using it. So yeah, thank you again, and I'll see you on the next webinar.